God bless the flag, we all beating our chest. When it's peace, it's the same old game, the same old players, same old names. Right. My skin is my sin. My skin is my sin. My skin is my sin.
Without further ado, man, I want to say thank you and let you know how humbled and honored we are to have Mr. Lee Merritt, the attorney for the Jordan Edwards family, on the line. And let me get to him right now. How you doing, sir?
Hey, I'm good. How's it going?
It's going all right.
Okay.
First and foremost, my name is Jobs. I'm one of the co-hosts, and we also have Brother Greg and the Queen Afi. And we have our manager with us tonight, too, as well, Rome. And we want to say thank you for coming on our platform.
Okay, bless people. Thank you for having me.
It is an honor.
Thank you for coming.
And first and foremost, if you don't mind, can we get a background on you as far as the law is concerned, what made you go into that? And then I want to get into the topic that we want to talk about, our young king that was taken too early.
Sure. I'll try to make it short. I'm from Los Angeles, California. I was raised during the Cochran era. So I grew up during what they call the trial of the century, which is the O.J. Simpson trial. And, grew up sort of idolizing Johnny Cochran. You take that, you put it against the backdrop of apartheid, South Africa, fall of the Soviet Union, and I was plucked out of Los Angeles, I think, at the end of my middle school. No, I'm sorry, at the end of my elementary, and dropped into Chiefland, Florida, which is no one's ever heard of it, but it's in the Panhandle region of Florida, and it's a town that's almost completely forgotten. The biggest store when I got there was a Piggly Wiggly, and so they still had regular Klan meetings. It was a culture that you would have thought you stepped into a time machine, that you were 50 years back in time. And so I had this very sort of militant background with my father being formerly incarcerated, Nation of Islam, the backdrop I just described along with that, and you put that in a culture of Southern racism, and I think I was almost born to be a civil rights attorney.
Wow, it sounds like it. It definitely sounds like it. And y'all can cut in when y'all want, because y'all know I'll ask a million questions.
All right. All right. So I'd like to say good evening. I'm one of the co-hosts. My name is Brother Greg. Yes, it's definitely a pleasure for you to have us on this platform. Now, I got a question. When you first heard about this story of Jordan Edwards, who reached out to you, or did you reach out to the family?
The family called me at 4 a.m. in the morning. It was on a Saturday night or Sunday morning, and on those days, I'm actually with my kids now. We're at McDonald's. But on those days, I have my kids allowed to get out of their bed and come and climb into bed with Daddy. So I'm sure I had like an infant's foot in my left eye, 2 infants facing my bed, and so I'm laying with my kids, and someone told me, hey, there's a 16-year-old who's in jail, another 15-year-old who was killed. They were unarmed. Unfortunately, I get a lot of calls like that, so you don't know exactly, you don't always know the facts. And so you start rationalizing, okay, it was a party. Was there shooting? Were they trying to run over someone with their car? Was there drugs involved? What happened? And the closer I got to the case and spoke with the family, you speak with the family initially, and I said, our son is dead. He was shot in the head. We can't figure out what went wrong. He did nothing wrong. He wasn't drinking. This is his first party that the kid has ever gone to. And, this is kind of the worst case scenario for a family, sending your 15-year-old to his first party with his big brothers there to protect him and to enforce the rules of the household. Yeah, so it's just a pure tragedy.
Wow. I just can't even imagine. And I also wanted to extend our deepest condolences to the family, and if there's anything possible that we as a family can do for them or you, don't hesitate to let us know.
Well, this Saturday we're asking everyone to stand with them on the steps of Crowley Hall, the courthouse in Dallas, and just remember Jordan. We're going to lay a wreath, and it's just people's presence there. If you can share the word, if you can get on my social media and share out flyers about it, the community can really show their support at that event, because right now we're getting to that point where media is starting to care a little, feel fresh to the family. They just buried their son less than a week ago, but for the news cycle, it's ready to move on.
And we were talking about that a little earlier as far as how it's like they're conditioning us to get accustomed to it.
Yeah,
you know,
we're absolutely conditioned.
Is there anything that you think that we can do to change that differently than what we have tried in the past?
That's a good question. I told people that my goal for this year is to find the cure to apathy. I think a lot of it has to do with disconnecting from social media, and I use social media as a tool to share information and to connect with people. You know, one of my good friends is Sean King, and he's like the king of social media and awareness through social media. But social media has made us lazy as an activist community. So we think we're being activists by sharing a post or writing a prolific comment or changing our status or changing our profile picture, and it does absolutely nothing, and it's so fleeting. But people need to join movements. They need to commit themselves to causes. They need to figure out. So, for example, you know, just a couple of months ago, everyone I knew was upset about Jackie Craig's situation in Fort Worth. The mother who called the police when her neighbor choked her 6-year-old son. I'm sorry, 8-year-old son.
For throwing someone, for littering or something?
Throwing raisins on his ground, but throwing raisins on his yard. And instead of arresting the neighbor for assaulting the child, the cop came out, gave mom a lecture, and then arrested her and her daughters. It was a viral video, and people tend to pay attention to videos a little longer. And so people were upset about that, and they wanted just cause in. And Jackie never got justice, and we're still working for justice for Jackie. But most people, you know, don't even remember the case, let alone care about the outcome, because they shared a post about it, and they donated to a GoFundMe account, and they figure their role is done. But true people who are committed to change take on a cause and see it through to its end. And so my mantra for this case is see it through. We have an arrest, you have to see it through. We have he was fired. We have to see it through all the way through to a conviction, not only for him but for all the officers that were culpable, all the supervisors who allowed that monster to stay on the force as long as he did.
Wow. Oh man. And I'm sorry. It just hurts, bro. It really does. As far as the facts of the case, can you kind of walk us through it a little bit? I know you touched on it as far as him being in the car with his brothers. And how are they doing, by the way?
Those guys will never be the same. People ask how they're doing a lot. And actually with Sean, a friend of mine, Sean, who summarized it like this. He said, imagine the person you love the most in the world. And then just take all your favorite memories of them and get them in your head. Now imagine that they're shot in the face for no reason, but cops lie about it. They take the other people that you love most in the world. They put them in handcuffs and arrest them for no reason. That's how they're doing, you know, and it's in front of them. And so when I talk to the boys, and I don't like to talk to them about it, but they don't sleep in the dark anymore. They keep the lights on at night. These are 16 tough kids, linebackers, basketball players, 16-year-old tough kids who pride themselves in developing, you know, their little beginnings of masculinity. But they can't sleep with the lights off anymore, because when they cut off the lights, they see smoke coming out of their little brother's head.
Wow.
Trauma.
They're forever traumatized. Those guys will never be the same. So they didn't just take Jordan. They snatched the innocence away from his brothers as well.
Wow. And I'm sorry, Afi, did you have a question?
I had a question, more of a general question of what's your opinion on, we were talking earlier about Texas being the most racist state in the union, and I wanted to know how you felt about that. I'm a Texan too, and I get that comment a lot. So I was wondering what were your thoughts, if you agree, why?
I haven't spent enough time in all the states in the union. I know there's a lot of racism everywhere. I like Texas's brand of racism, because up north they pretend like it doesn't exist, and it just it's something that's constantly impacting you. It's affecting your job advancement. It's affecting your education. It's affecting your financial situation. But they don't call it racism. They call it everything else. and it's more difficult to attack an enemy that you can't see. Out here, it's just racism.
Exactly.
It's not plain up front. We don't like you because of the color of your skin. The color of your skin is your sin, and so that's why. And that, at least that I can beat head on. I will say that I spent some time in Atlanta. I spent some time in Florida, California, Virginia. My firm is based out of Pennsylvania and New Jersey. I was just passing through Texas, and I caught a case about a young lady who was ran off the side of the road, Simone Marshall, and her car flipped over several times. The police came, got her out of the car, and took her to jail instead of a hospital. Inside the jail, she died. And so I was working that case, and then July 7th happened. And July 7th is obviously the Dallas sniper attacks, but instead of focusing on the criminal, they focused on the Black Lives Matter movement in general, began attacking individuals, no one more so than Mark and Corey Hughes. Mark Hughes being the person they decided was their suspect, and started a nationwide manhunt to harass and intimidate his family, although he had nothing to do with it. While I was still working that case, there was a veteran at a corporation. I'm not supposed to say her name anymore. There was a veteran at a food services corporation who was discriminated against on Veterans Day, and they took the food out of his hand. Another viral video. And while I was still working that, they killed a kid in Arlington on my birthday. And it was like I couldn't ever get out of this state because the need was so high, right? So it's pervasive. It's very the racism here is pervasive, but I don't know if it's more so than any other states. Just look at all the states that elected Trump, and there's where your racism lies. Yeah, and that includes my home base state of Pennsylvania.
You're absolutely right about that. We have a far more overt brand of racism here than in a lot of other places. I definitely agree with that. Just let me know up front that you don't mess with me, so I can keep my distance and and do my thing accordingly instead of having to figure it out along the way. I definitely agree with that.
I think, especially in Ohio and in Pennsylvania, the smaller towns in between, the big metropolises are pretty overt. Like we were going to the Poconos this past summer, and we got off at the wrong exit. Yeah. We see, a mile full of vote for Trump signs, and then the biggest Confederate flag I have ever seen with my own two eyes on the front of somebody's house. Yeah. We turned around immediately and got back on the freeway.
You leave those major cities, and it's California, my home state as well. Leave those major cities, and you'll realize that the South is everywhere.
That's a fact.
Oh yeah, what do they call them? Sundown cities. There are sundown cities everywhere.
Sundown towns.
Sundown towns. Yeah. We were always warned about those when I was coming up certain places. When it's about time that street light come on, you do not need to be in those types of places.
Correct.
That's a sad thing you have to teach your children too. Yeah. But I do want to kind of make sure, especially for people that are tuning in, that may not be aware of what happened to Jordan Edwards. Can you kind of lay out the facts of the case for us?
Sure. The basic facts are that three brothers and two of their friends, five guys all together, went to a high school party, a house party, not this past, about 2 weeks ago now. I believe it was it June 29th? And you guys have to forgive me, my kids are attacking me suddenly. But so I believe it was June 29th, so about two weeks ago. They arrived to the party. There was over 300 kids, $2 at the door. Somebody's mom was out of town, and they just thought that they would have a good time. Our guys came in. They went to the back of the house, to the backyard, danced, enjoyed themselves, and then they heard the police were coming because of noise complaints. And so all the kids, again, 300 kids to one house, it was a melee. Everyone started to scatter, go to their respective vehicles, cars, and head home. Our guys did that. They met with some of their friends and headed back to their car. Once they got to their car, they heard gunshots, and so everybody really started to try to get out of there. They heard 5 gunshots. It wasn't actually in their area. but nevertheless, they heard gunshots nearby. They saw the police were out there, and no one knew what was going on. So They got in their car to go. As they were pulling off, they heard someone shouting profanity at them, something like, "Stop the effing car." Before they could react to stop the car, that person fired 4 to 5 rounds into the car to the passenger side door. One of the rounds striking 15-year-old Jordan Edwards in the head. The guys drove off down the street, stopped a block away where they felt like they were safe distance away from the shooting. The police followed quickly thereafter them. Told the driver to get out of the car. He was nervous. His brother's body had literally flown over to his side of the car, so it was on his shoulder at the time. They told him to walk backwards. Don't look at them. He could see laser lights on him. They told him to move to his left. He moved to his right. They said this effing N-word doesn't know the difference between his left and his right. Humiliated him, put him in handcuffs, held him there for 3 hours before taking him to the Dallas County Sheriff's Office, where they said he would be charged, but by then my office had heard about it. We arrived and was able to secure his release.
Damn.
Wow.
Man, that just...
Yeah, that's. So, what's for the people that might not know, what's the current situation of the police officer that did that shooting?
So he was fired. He was charged with murder within a week, which is extraordinary in the United States. His bail was set at $300,000, which is extraordinarily high for first offenders in Texas. However, he was able to make bail within 15 minutes, and he's been released on bond. And he's waiting. They're waiting to complete an investigation to get the charges over to the grand jury so that they can seek an indictment.
So clearly, there, because I remember what the police chief, his initial reaction was, the kids, you know, was coming towards the police officers, and as soon as they saw the footage, they changed that immediately. Have you seen the footage?
No, I haven't seen the footage. I spoke to the DA about when we would be allowed to see the footage, and so we should be with action within the next week, although it won't be released publicly. I don't know that I buy that he saw the footage and changed his mind. If you kill a kid or a kid gets killed on your watch, you see the footage that night. You don't see it 2 days later, and then change your story. I think he did what they always do, which was, hey, we killed a kid. What's our story? They got their story and didn't realize how big it was going to be. It wasn't going to be just one of those stories that they can make up, tell everyone to accept it, like they did a few months ago in Arlington when they killed a kid in the exact same way and never released the footage that covered it. This case got the kind of traction, the momentum it did, because Jordan Edwards was a choir boy. He was the perfect kid. Not that anyone's perfect, but they couldn't find any way to undermine his character. They couldn't find a way to add blame to him. There were too many witnesses. There were 300 kids circling the neighborhood. Everyone saw what happened. There was somebody parked in the car directly behind them when the shooting took place. So the claim that there was an officer standing back there was going to be undermined. And they said, look, we can't do the same thing here. We're going to have to eat our young and throw this cop under the bus, knowing that the likelihood that he'll be convicted for murder in the state of Texas is very low because they haven't done it in almost 50 years.
Wow.
But, yeah, he came out and changed his story, and he said it was because he saw the video, but I don't believe that.
Huh. I could agree with that. I feel what you're saying on that one. Yeah, I would definitely. And I'm pretty sure the conversation was, we're going to do it this way. This is going to be the story. However, if it gets to this point, you know, this is going to be the story.
Right.
You know, right. So yeah, I can definitely see what you're saying on that one. Let me ask you this too, and I'll step out the way, because y'all know I'll talk all day now. Y'all got to cut me off a little bit.
Very good.
We were also talking about what we could do to prevent this from happening over and over again. And one thing that I was thinking is are we able to sue the police unions?
If you can find some culpability on the police, they would have to be responsible for doing something. So to the extent that police unions take up training and supervising officers, and the officers are negligently trained, then yes. But otherwise, I mean, obviously I'm a civil rights attorney, so when you ask what can we do about it, I plan to change the name of Box Springs, the city of Box Springs, to Jordanville. I don't think the city will ever be the same by the time we're done with the civil suit that we're preparing. The other aspect of it is that laws need to change. Those videos exist for a reason, and the video was a major factor for how this case is playing out. But there are a lot of videos in these cases. They find ways to hide from the public for an extraordinary amount of time, and so the laws need to change so that either those videos are immediately made public, or or they're at least made available to the family and their attorneys immediately. And so, being woke during the election season, we buried Jordan last week. It happened to be the same day as local elections. You would think the people of Box Springs, if no one else, would be motivated to vote. 2% of their population voted. Less than 500 people came out and participated in that election. Their mayor was selected with by a margin of 39 votes. And they had their first city council meeting last week, and they said, hey, the only time they even mentioned Jordan was they said we need to find more activities for kids to get involved in so that they are not out on the streets and things like what happened don't happen. Wow. As if it has something to do with the kids. Right. Nobody who was elected, the recently elected city council, didn't think, hey, we got a major problem in our police department that needs a complete overhaul. They said it's the kids' fault. And as if Jordan didn't have enough to do, as if being a straight-A student, participant in karate, participant in football, actively involved in his church, and a deep relationship with his dad wasn't enough. He needed more to do, not the officer. Right?
And since you brought that up,
they're very good at
talk about that
they're very good at victim.
My fault, AJ. Go ahead.
Oh no, you're good.
Oh, I was just saying. I know the officer that allegedly murdered him. It's definitely got a sketchy past. If the reports are correct.
So he has but not post traumatic. He got PTSD. I forgot how to pronounce it, but yeah, I seen
PTSD.
That. And my first question. No, I'm just going to say my first question is how, if they have all these psychological evaluations for these people, these things wouldn't happen before they even brought on to the force, in my opinion. Or, I mean, why? I don't know. I just don't get it.
Yeah, so this is a guy who, of course, he's going to claim post-traumatic stress disorder, but he was able to go through evaluations, move up through the ranks within the police department, since suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. You know what they failed to do? And it's really suspicious to me. They failed to actually tell us about his combat history. Because PTSD is a serious thing for people who are involved in active combat. And if that was an actual factor here, they would be playing that up. Not talking about his kids and his dad. They would say this was a guy who was in the deepest, darkest parts of Afghanistan, under constant fire, that he saw his best friend die from an IED. They're not saying any of that, and that's because I believe he was a weekend warrior. I don't even think this was a guy who was in active combat. And part of that proves it to me is because he wore. I know military guys, and they don't wear the stupid T-shirts he wears, and it sounds trivial, but he was wearing stupid T-shirts that glorified combat and glorified killing citizens. And he actually has T-shirts. It's called "Dysfunctional Veterans." Doesn't play well with civilians. Eat, sleep, kill, repeat. And real soldiers who go through that, just like if you guys know real street guys don't brag about banging. They don't enjoy it. It's something they had to do to survive. Real soldiers don't do that kind of bragging.
Exactly. And we're not going to talk about how his old man got a sketchy past, allegedly,
right?
Or how he had, if I remember correctly, 2 kids like a month apart, and a couple of blocks apart.
So, yeah. Oh, so that already lets you know, right? He's irresponsible as far as making very huge decisions that can affect his life. You feel me? I'm just saying. That's just how I look at it.
I mean, and it's allegedly, but I just want to make sure that we get that out there, because I don't think that we all are aware of how the narrative typically goes, and you're right. That's the problem, is that the young king was so above reproach that it's like they were searching and searching and searching for something to find, and they can't.
Yeah, and that's the thing that's most frustrating for me is it shouldn't have to be. It's not about
exactly.
They always make it about us. It's not about us. When you commit a crime against us, when you brutalize us, when you kill us, we have to look into your acts. You don't get to look at, Lee Merritt's dad was incarcerated. He used to gangbang when he was 14. What does that have to do with the fact that you shot me when I was in my car? And so while this case is an opportunity for us to finally look at the facts, because there's no other distractions to look at, it's an unfair standard that black people have to be perfect in order for their lives to matter at all.
Correct.
And we have to be perfect in death. Like not only do we have to have a perfect life, we have to be able to prove that we had a perfect life after we've gone. You killed us.
Right.
Oh man, and somebody's got some clicking in the background. I'm not sure who that is. Wow, man, this is just so. He's arrested now. He's out on bail. I'm just kind of wondering how a police officer is just sitting around with that type of bread to get out of jail that quickly.
Over $700,000 was raised for him online by police forces across the country.
Oh, yeah, they did the same thing with Darren Wilson and the whole list of police officers. There's one thing that I can say racist people do. Is they stick together quietly.
Yeah. Absolutely. Clear indication that they don't view his actions as wrong or their actions as that they themselves could have seen that they would have done.
Right.
So I have a question. The way that these institutions are organized, institutions usually understand human error, and they look to the system for the issue or the fault. When so many individuals repeat the same mistake, so why is it that the institutions, the law enforcement institutions, are not taking responsibility? And this branches from when you were asked about a possible solution of holding them accountable, and there must be some fault that they play, but wouldn't they play fault in this type of situation?
Yeah, so I mean, the answer to the question is white supremacy. They don't even fully understand their complaint because they're looking at it through a lens of white predominance and everything. So they say, of course, we're killing you all. Many of the times it's unjustified. Some of the times because of your nature. And this is how they really, I think when we get down to it, this is how they really feel. Most of the time that we have to shoot you people, it's justified. And so I'm sorry that it makes you upset, but it's your life or my life, and I choose me, right? So if that's how they really feel about it, they're not as alarmed by the death of Trayvon Martin as we are, because Trayvon Martin was going to kill George Zimmerman using the ground as his weapon, in their opinion, right? And so you have that on the one hand, and then they say, plus you people are killing each other. Why do you all keep talking about us killing you when there's Chicago? That's the city that everybody likes to focus on. In all these other major cities, where the murder rate is skyrocketing. Why aren't you guys out in the street protesting that, as opposed to the last cop shootings, right? And the thinking. From a logical standpoint, I get frustrated because I'm a logical person both by training, by nature, and so my first knee-jerk response is, number one, you don't compare killing of us, internal city killings to police killings for two reasons. Number one, you have to do that for white people. White people kill more white people than white people kill cops too.
Right,
but no one does it because you're like, but they're white people. That's fine. So stop normalizing your behavior and making our behavior seem, wild and barbaric. Well, it's the same thing if you take race out of it. So yes, we kill more of each other just like you all kill more of each other, and it's a problem. But guess what? You all have no problem putting us in jail when we kill each other. In fact, you're enthusiastic about it. To the tune of 1 out of every 3 black people will be in jail at some point in their lives. So, yeah, you guys have no problem incarcerating us. The justice system works fine for you incarcerating us. But when you all kill us, it's completely justified. It's you all go home and eat your meals, and it's been, I think, 1,200 police killings in the last 10 years and 11 convictions. Out of 12, I'm sorry, I said 1,200, 12,000 police killings in the last year and 11 convictions. So the real problem is that you all go home at the end of the day. So you guys kill us with impunity. I can see that from a common sense perspective. Moreover, 12,000 police killings in the past 10 years, most modernized nations in the world won't kill that many citizens in the history of the nation.
Yeah.
Every other modernized country has figured out how to police their citizens without killing them. We haven't figured that out yet. It's too complicated. You have whole police forces in England who don't even carry firearms. What for? Like, it's not necessary. So.
Wow, man, that's just, I didn't know it was that many. Wow, and 11 convictions. And out of those 11, do you know that anybody was convicted of just straight up murder?
Yeah, no, just 11 convictions, period. Murder is a lot more rare. Typically, that's something like Fruitville Station, which you had where he was convicted of manslaughter.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like at this point, the list of names is just endless.
Yeah, no. Ran out of room.
Man, and social media has been a gift and a curse. You know, it has allowed us it has allowed more people to see what we've been seeing for years. But like we've been, like we were saying, it's also kind of making us like, oh, okay, because now you got black folks like, well, what did that person do? Are you serious?
Right.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: 500 people elected the mayor of, actually 250 people elected the mayor of Balch Springs, right? That's how many people we pack in the church from more than one church in Balch Springs. If we're really concerned, if we're really fed up, if this is the last straw, then become the mayor of Balch Springs and every other Balch Springs throughout the country. We need to seize control of the system. We need to become actively involved. We need to be the prosecutor. And so right now we have a black prosecutor who has made up in her mind that she has children, and she says in Dallas, you know what, I'm a conservative Republican. I don't have the best record, but I'm fed up, just like every other black mother in the country is fed up, and this officer is going to jail. And I spoke with her at length and for the past few days, and she is truly committed to sending this guy to jail. She's going to run into snags. She's going to run into snags in her system because we need to show up for the jury. Because if she gets a predominantly white jury, like she typically gets, who are sympathetic to law enforcement, but that then it's going to be very difficult to secure a prosecution on the charge of murder. But that's on us too, because we got to respond to jury summons. If it's going to change, when you ask what can we do, we need to seize every aspect of the system. We need to get educated. We need to produce better lawyers, more consistent lawyers. We need to produce prosecutors. We need to participate in the jury pool. We need to run for local office. We need to spend our dollars in black community. We have to stay woke, right? But are we? I don't know.
Man, and that reminds me, because we talked to Dr. Cynthia McKinney a couple of weeks ago, or about a month ago. And she said basically the same thing. She said she doesn't think that politics has failed us necessarily, that we have failed politics.
Right.
And it's levels to it. We need soldiers, we need to be able to defend ourselves, but we also need to be able to defend ourselves in a courtroom. Or,
right.
And you're right. We need, especially when it's that easy to elect somebody.
Yeah.
Like you literally, across your work and maybe school, 200 people.
Yeah. There were more people at his funeral than participated in the entire election. There were more people at this kid's funeral than participated in the entire election. They could have walked from the funeral to the polls and chosen the next mayor.
Wow, man, that's just.
I mean,
man,
I don't know how.
Change that?
It's like we gotta put some fires under people's asses for real and get them more enthusiastic about voting locally. The way that a lot of the candidates that run for president, they pay celebrities off and things of that nature to get everybody involved. I don't know how, of course, locally we wouldn't be able to afford it, but if we was to put the same enthusiasm behind voting locally as we do for voting for a president, we would be in a way different situation than we are right now.
Yeah. But I got to tap out. I got to get back to my kids. I really appreciate you all having me on the show. I'm sorry if I cut it short.
All hours, man. And like I said, if you guys need, if there's anything we can do for you, please don't hesitate to let us know.
All right, I will.
All right, and salute to you, King. Thank you so much.
All right, Salam.
Enjoy the rest of your evening.